That was then. This is now. GOP is vowing to ram through a nominee in violation of every objection they made when the shoe was on the other foot during President Obama's selection of Merrick Garland to fill the seat vacated by Justice Scalia nearly 8 months before the 2016 election. Washington Post reports Republicans prepare to move quickly on Supreme Court openings as Trump weighs top contenders, quote, as President Trump prepares to nominate a successor to Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg this week, Republican leaders moved urgently Sunday to make the political and procedural case for bucking recent precedent and filling the vacancy before the next presidential term. And in addition to Trump's complete dependence on judicial picks to bridge the distance between his repugnant personal conduct and tether him to his base, there's the other publicly stated rationale for stacking the court: Donald Trump's admission that he believes the federal courts will determine the outcome of the presidential election.
We're going to have a victory on November 3rd, the likes of which you've never seen. Now, we're counting on the federal court system to make it so that we can actually have an evening where we know who wins, okay? Not where the votes are going to be counted a week later or 2 weeks later.
That's taking the whole saying the quiet part out loud thing to a new level. Donald Trump revealing there that he plans to litigate a victory, not actually win one. The president, the lying GOP, and his publicly declared plan to use the federal courts on Election Day are where we start this hour. With us from the Washington Post, White House Bureau Chief Phil Rucker. Also joining us, former Democratic Senator Claire McCaskill is here, and former RNC chairman and senior advisor to the Lincoln Project, Michael Steele, is back. Claire McCaskill, I must start with you, my friend. You've been unloading, and I think speaking for a lot of people, about the outrage of the hypocrisy. But where do you stand on the reality of what the Republicans seem ready to do?
Well, I don't believe that this works to their benefit. I know what it felt like in 2018 when this was an ongoing circus and I was on the ballot in a state that Trump had won by almost 20 points. And that's the way these Republican senators are feeling that are on the ballot in places like Colorado and Maine and North Carolina and Arizona. This is not good for the Republican Party. You know what I think? I think one of the biggest reasons it's not good for the Republican Party, guess whose face we're going to see over and over again between now and November 3rd? None other than Turtle McTurtle Mitch McConnell. I mean, Mitch McConnell is going to be the face of the Republican Party, and that is not a good face for the Republican Party, especially for these Senate races. So, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why I can go into why I think it's better for Democrats. They're lying about what they believe in. They are sacrificing principle for power, all the things that Americans hate about politicians who put politics before policy.
Claire, I want to give you a chance to keep going, but I would just add that I agree with you. I actually think that there has been this tectonic shift, and I think that when it is a change in the balance of power, voters reflexively like equilibrium. It's why a president's party usually loses seats in the midterms, because voters just have this intuitive feeling that the two will balance each other's out. It's why people that have campaigned against gridlock don't always get very far. Voters like things to balance out. And when it's a seat that's going to change the balance of power, and you've got Mitch McConnell making vulnerable senators walk the plank, I think the politics are terrible for Republicans. But I just want you to give voice to that, because I don't think I think it's borne out in the polls. The polls show that this issue animates Democrats more than Republicans, I think, for the first time in a long time. But I think there's still a lot of jitters that the kinds of voters who are repelled by Trump may be re-energized or re-attracted to him by a Supreme Court fight.
The voters that are very committed to overturning Roe v. Wade, and the voters who are very committed to getting rid of protection for pre-existing conditions in the Affordable Care Act, they're already voting for Trump. I'll tell you who was like, right, where there was room to grow in this election. Where there's room to grow in this election was with young people. And, I was taken aback when I called my daughter, who's in her late 20s, to tell her that Justice Ginsburg had died. There was this long silence on the phone, and then there was a sob. Young people had an affinity for RBG. They saw who she was. Yeah. They got what she was standing for, and that she was the one that was in the breach for them, for gay marriage, for women's health rights. And those young people, I think now, I mean, there's room to grow there in the crosstabs. I've looked at it carefully. Women, grandmothers who heard this jerk called this granddaughter a liar this morning on national TV. I think there is more motivation on our side, and frankly, 90% of the people have made up their mind already, and they favor Donald Trump. They favor Joe Biden right now. So the same numbers think what the Senate is doing is wrong.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.